All right, everyone. Hello, I'm Monica Bermudez. I'm back for another episode of the podcast, and I have a very special guest with me. It's my first one. I'm so excited. Colleen Lindberg. We've known each other for so long now. It feels like 3 years, but it feels longer than that.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
So we want to talk about the Akashic records and light warriors and whatever else wants to flow out of us, because this is pretty much a flowy type conversation between us. But I want to introduce Colleen to all of you. She is a soul mission activator and a spiritual guide. Her mission on Earth is to dismantle the conformity infrastructures holding us back so people can fully embody their potency and power. She believes that each soul's mission is a unique rhythm that is meant to ripple through the world. Her programs and teachings guide light warriors into more embodiment into their light, owning their unique tools and vibration. Yay! All the things that I love.
I'm so excited to be here, Monica. We've known each other for like 3 years, but we've known each other for centuries and centuries.
I'm sure we've been through like so many other lifetimes of connections, is what I feel. That's why when I was counting the 3 years, it doesn't feel like it's 3 years. It feels like it's a life, like many lifetimes.
Agreed. I totally agree with you, for sure.
Yeah, and even though we've met, under weird circumstances of like a weird group that we were both in, it served its purpose, and that purpose was for us to reconnect and find ourselves again. And so now, here we are. Things have really been shifting and accelerating in our life. And the one thing that, keeps us from, really connecting in our deep roots, I feel are the Akashic records, which are the archives for our memories of our own soul, where we've been. And I know that, for you, like the light warriors is a really big thing. And I do feel like we are like this army of light right now that
Yeah.
on the surface of the earth. And because of all the chaos that is so accelerated, that has been coming up from like left, right, and whatever direction, right? Yeah. It's almost like you gotta be prepared with all your light weapons.
Yeah. I keep getting this visual like all the time whenever we talk about light warriors, and there's certain programs that they lead in my world, and I just every time I drop into them, I see like the movie with Mel Gibson where they're all riding horses going to war. What's that movie called again? And then he's like,
are you talking about Braveheart?
Yeah, I'm talking about Braveheart. Yes. So like that's what I was like, what is the name? How could I forget this? And like he just like puts up his sword, and it's like we're all on the edge, and it's almost like we're looking down over the cliff, right? And we're right at the edge of the mountain, and we're being called forward to step into our light, and we're watching the light warriors one at a time drop over, trusting and surrendering into the space of this expansion and what it means, and our gifts on the earth, and fighting in our own revolution inside of us. And this is really the message coming through a lot. I've been feeling this a lot, is like the revolution of sovereignty, and like our literal pulse point inside of us that's beaming out, like our war, our fight in us, as well as in the light avenues of the collective of us really owning that. So yeah.
There's a favorite line from that movie, Braveheart, like freedom. And,
right?
Because that's really what it is. Like you said, it's that sovereignty. Like,
yes. It is so true. And it's like, movies give us amazing representation sometimes of the visuals that we see. And then we drop into things, we were talking about the Akashic records before we hit record. And like, I keep seeing in some of the visualizations and activations that I do within the records, like Harry Potter, like in the 5th episode of his, I don't know if you've like watched them all or not, but like there's like cats, they have cat photos and they're like alive. And so one of the people came out and they're like, I kept seeing these alive photos. I was like, oh my God, like Harry Potter, like it was like they represent such cool images for us in life.
Oh,
right?
Yes. I love Harry Potter movie series, and I rewatched it actually like a year ago. Because I was feeling like I really want to rewatch it. And it's interesting to rewatch movies now because we've expanded so much, our consciousness, that our perception is also like shifting in that, expansion as well. Yeah. And so when we rewatch certain movies that we may have watched like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, we see them with whole new eyes. And so when I rewatched that whole Harry Potter, it's like, wait a second, that's the story of us. and the magic that we hold inside of us, almost like our recounting of, us as star seeds, as light warriors,
Yep.
carrying our own magic and our own wisdom with that.
Yeah. It's so true. And you even reference the part of like, when he diminished that Dementor, right? And it was his
Mhm.
light inside of him that
Yeah.
actually did it when he thought it was outside of him, but it
Yeah.
wasn't.
It was
It's in,
him.
it's here, right here. And
Yes,
this is what we're
that was my
remembering.
favorite part. Yes, I love
Agreed.
that.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
like, it was like his future self that
Yeah.
was coming back to kind of help him with, guide him. And
Yes.
that's really what it is with us, that our future self is actually one of our spirit guides.
Yes.
And so has been influencing us the most, I would say, with, like how we are, what's calling us from our heart, and the desire that is coming up now for change, for stepping up and stepping into our own power. And so
Mhm.
that's, really what it is, our own inner light. So I love that you said that. One episode, that one
Yeah.
clip of that movie was so powerful.
All like there was a year, I can't even remember when, like, so I've been actively in my spiritual awakening for 14 years. And why I say
Mhm.
actively is when I first met my first spiritual mentor and I made a decision to actually do something instead of just pretend like I knew or sort of known or like half in kind of over here. And there was one year, maybe about 5 years ago, that I was told to go back and watch all the movies and take notes. And the one movie that I disliked the most out of Harry Potter, which is number 5, was the one I
Mhm.
had the most notes on. And I just kept writing and writing. And of course it is, right? Because it's like something, there's something
Yeah,
there that I'm like refusing to look at, or I don't want to
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like in
Oh, yes. Yeah,
right. So
that's a good point. I
yeah.
love that about the
Yeah.
triggering. What's triggering you? Why is it
Oh,
triggering you? Because
yeah.
I always say that triggering is an activation, and it's
I
an
agree.
activation to get you aligned to your own soul.
Right. And when we get triggered, now it's such a beautiful space for us to actually look at it, to be like, "Ooh, okay, this is opening up a new level for me if I choose to see it this way."
Hmm.
Right. And it is a beautiful, and one of my good friends here in Costa Rica actually says that all the time. She goes, "We don't trigger, Colleen, we activate." And I said, "Oh, okay, Laura, we activate." Like her name's
There you
Laura,
go.
right? And I'm like,
Perfect.
but it means the same thing. It really does, because we're
It
activating in
does.
them to be able to move it through if they
Yes,
choose to decide that. Right. So, yeah.
exactly. Yes, it has to come from the willpower of someone who's desiring to make that change.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people who don't want to like make the change. They become aware of it, but they don't do anything about it.
Swallowing the pill, right? This, like, because a lot of it's our
Yeah.
personal responsibility, right? We're the creators of our own reality, and that is
Hmm.
actually truth. And then when we look at it and go, well, my life sucks, or I'm in the same
Hmm.
circumstances, or I'm in the same patterns, or I'm not expanding, or whatever it is, the mission that we're in at the moment of time. But we have to look at ourselves and go, shit, it's me, you know?
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like in the Matrix, right? Do you remember like the one scene, since we're talking about movies, might as well
I,
reference.
yeah, I know. Like, come on, bring it in,
So like the one part where the guy who turned on them, right? He had just been like his plug had been removed. So he actually saw that it was just all simulation, right? And
Right.
then one guy who kind of betrayed them, who was on the inside.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, I don't want to be like outside of the matrix anymore. I want to go back to the matrix because I actually loved, the whole eating a steak, it was
Yeah.
like
Those steaks, man, I love them too. So
even
fun.
though he knew it was all like an illusion as part of the simulation, but he just didn't
Of
want, he
course.
wanted to go back and be there and just didn't want the change, the actual change.
Yeah.
So I feel like in some ways there's some sleepers still out there, or people who just like feel it's too much and they want to go back. But like once you pull that plug, I mean, that's it.
Yeah. It's like it's done. Like you can't, like, some days I wish I could just be ignorant and pretend like I don't know. Some days I just wish that I could, but like not really much anymore. But before, when I was going through like some of my darkest times, and they're
Oh
not
yeah.
dark, they're just dealing with some of the stuff and like moving it through. And I say they're not dark because they're all part of polarity. They're all part of the system. It's just, it is. That's what it is.
Hmm.
And I'll be
Yes.
like, can I just pretend like I don't know what's going on? No. Like, no,
No,
you already
too
know. Get
late.
over it. Yeah. Like,
Exactly.
get
It's
over it.
done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. I want to ask you a question though, because you brought this up is about eating meat. So there's
Okay.
a lot of
Ooh.
people like, and we have obviously both dualities in the space of this. Like,
Yes.
how do you feel as you as this, embodied, starseed for sure you are like, and you have multiple layers to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And like you guys, like most of you that I hang out with, like you, Tanya, Brooke, all float in the galactics. Where I'm like more the
Yes.
earth warrior going, like, these guys are like way the hell out there. But what do you feel about meat? Tell me about what your sense is on this.
So I don't really like care if people want to eat meat or not.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna judge anyone,
Yeah.
like because I certainly wouldn't want anybody to judge me how I want to eat. And I
Yeah.
think it's just like whatever your body is feeling in that moment that you need, that needs those nutrients. And I think that we should stop labeling this whole thing. This is my opinion about like all the labels
Yeah.
of vegetarian and vegan and like
Yeah.
being so like inflexible about it.
Right. Yeah.
I think that it should be like an intuitive eating, like it's
Mm.
whatever you're feeling in that moment. If you're like a vegan, but say like you want to have cheese, then have the cheese. You're
Yeah.
not
For
really
sure.
like, or like
Yeah.
there's a new term that I remember I saw like at a silver diner, and it said like flexitarian.
Oh yeah. There you go. Like whatever I feel like eating today is what I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna actually call myself that from now on. I'm a flex. Like, I want the
or
cheesecake.
sometimes
I'm gonna
or sometimes I joke and they're like, some people are like part-time vegetarian or like part-time vegan.
it's
It's since
like
people are into like the
yeah.
labeling, but I have fun with it, and I don't
Yeah.
really like have any like get serious about it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. No, I just was
you have
curious
to
because I
do
was
this,
like, yeah. Well, there's like the school of thought, right? But we also
Mhm.
are in a duality earth experience. So we have
Yes.
both polarities. So
Yes.
everybody's right for themselves. But it's like when people are coming into the space to try and say you aren't spiritual because you eat meat,
Oh, yeah.
it's just like, what? Like, and I'm like, look, I've talked to the cows. Okay. Like,
Hmm.
I've had numerous conversations with them. And here's what they said to me: Colleen, we are incarnated to be eaten. And I said,
Yes.
perfect. I want to eat you, man. So like, let's
Yeah,
go.
so what you eat has nothing to do with spirituality, and that also includes the drinking. It's all in moderation, is what feels right in your body,
Right.
and
Yeah.
for me, like I stopped eating meat like many years back, more than 20 years now, because that's what my body was asking. And I
Right.
do check in though on my body sometimes, and I say, do you want like chicken?
Would you like some
These are
beef
my
broth today? Like,
right. And then I feel it, my body was telling me, and it's like, no. It's like, okay, then no meat.
and then
We'll
you just
stay
keep
this
moving.
way.
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree with
exactly.
you. I agree with you. We I went on a camping hiking trip in Guatemala just a couple of weeks ago, and my body does not like carbohydrates. Like it just doesn't.
Mhm.
I have gut issues when I eat like pastas and breads, and like it just doesn't vibrate with me. But it called for it. It was like, you need to
Yeah.
eat pancakes. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll eat the pancakes, like I'm like, because it needed fuel, because
Yeah.
literally it was a 46-kilometer hike up 3 different mountaintops, 9,000 feet up on one of the mountaintops elevation. It was
Yeah.
intense. And I've never trained for a hike, like, I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, you do need some carbs for that kind of intense
uh,
hikes.
right.
It's like almost
Yeah.
like running a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I brought us way off into the other space of topics, but I just thought it was relevant because I think that
It is.
this judgment is showing up in the world a lot right now too.
Yes.
And a lot of
Yes.
people are judging or being judged when they're
Part of
making
duality.
decisions. Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. And it's really getting stronger.
Yes.
So I just felt called to kind of bring that up today. I don't know why, but we're talking about steak. So
It's intensified, and I'm glad you brought it up because that
mhm.
is part of our duality as humans, and
Mhm.
learning and knowing how to manage that duality when it comes up.
Yeah.
If people get like reactionary about certain stuff, like someone eating meat in front of you when you're like a vegetarian or a vegan, then you have to really like ask yourself inwardly, why is it triggering you?
Right.
And the other thing to know about like animals, they're very resilient. They're also multidimensional. They are aware. you know, of all the situation here on the earth. If you think about like all the cultures, right? What I really love specifically about the native culture, so I feel like I've been connecting a lot with the indigenous. So I'm bringing this up, that they've always prayed for the animal before they killed it, you know, because they went hunting for food, right? They had to get their substance somehow. And so whenever they would do certain prayers and certain ceremonies for the animal to, for one, be grateful for it giving its life, for them to be able to have their nutrition, right? And the same would apply to us, right? Because we kind of forgotten that, like, not so many cultures do that, you know, like where, you know, some people may pray for it, but I mean, like actually connecting with the elements of food, the molecules and the particles and so forth. It doesn't matter what you're eating. And as you're consuming it, giving it that deep gratitude that it's giving you those nutrients energetically for your body, you know, as well as the physical, but also because if we're talking about the quantum field of things, right? Everything is like interconnected. And this also applies to the Akashic records, you know, like we're about to talk more about. And so maybe, but I think it does apply in some way to that.
It totally does. I agree. Yeah.
So energetically, you're sending out these rippling effects of those energy nutrients to the collective. And so that is one of those things that I practice, you know, since I was little, that whatever I consume, that it may be a benefit to all the others who are in need of those nutrients, you know, energetically, because we share them also through the quantum field, whether, you know, we believe it or not. There's people on this earth who, like, for instance, they eat air. That's how they live.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? To think about that.
Yeah, it's wild.
Let me ask you a question about that. So do you feel...
Wait a second. Am I supposed to be asking you the question?
I know, but no, we're like Joe Rogan style here. Okay. This is how I like to interact.
All right. I love
about me. Like, it's about us creating.
All right. I love this.
A collective of energy. Okay. So I'm just really curious. I haven't talked to Monica on a Zoom in a while. So I'm like doing catch up while we're doing podcasting. Okay. So like, I'm just like, okay, tell me about what you feel about this. So do you feel that those souls are actually in alignment with their human experience when they are bypassing most of the human dynamic? So you think about it, they're choosing to get back into like more their spiritual form instead of embodied in their humanness. Do you think that they're bypassing in some degree? Not all, because we can't categorize everyone together, but what's your first sense on it?
When you say they, are you talking about the breatharians or the...
Yeah, the breatharians. That's because I've had this conversation. That's why I want to know your opinion.
So it's more like their life force, you know, as part of the soul, because there's other aspects to the soul that, you know, the things that connect us to our body, our physical body, we have our soul, but then we also have this life force.
Right.
And so the sun, it's like this big nutrient of like life force energy. And so they've mastered, you know, people who are breatharians, I feel like have a lot of mastery, and they built their willpower strength to, you know, be able to adjust their bodies for those nutrients. You know, I'm not saying this for everybody, you know, everybody's going to do their own mastery and their own thing for, you know, food substance or whatever, you know, but it works for them, you know, and that's what they're being called in that mode, you know, for them to be in that area. So the one thing, it's like, you know, like going back to the movie reference, like Superman, he would get recharged.
How many movies can we talk about in this episode? You know, we got
he
four.
Get recharged. Star Wars is next. But like, you know, he would get recharged with the sun, you know, and there's some truth to that. All of us need, you know, some form of substance from the sun. And so whenever the best time to get the best nutrients is in the morning, right when the sun is rising. And it's just hard for me to get up in the morning. So that's why I don't do it as often. But it's one of those practices that, I would like to do, you know, it's like, but when I have done it, it's almost like I get so energized and I feel like I'm not so hungry. Whenever I connect with the sun when it's rising. So I can see why, you know, breatharians could make it their whole life, you know, for them, if that works for them. But it's not for me, you know, for me personally, it's not.
Well, and it's like, I think about this. So like, I think about these random thoughts, like not all the time, but every so often, because I'm like, I wonder if they're actually in their mission, because like maybe not everyone has a very tactile mission on Earth, like, and that could be their mission is to prove out that you can, not eat and
Yes.
still be on Earth. I don't know. Like, and obviously I'd have to like start talking to them and figure it out, or
Mm-hmm.
be like, dude, you're totally bypassing everything you're meant to learn on Earth by thinking that you just need to be a breatharian. But I don't know. Maybe they are in alignment, and maybe they're just calibration is what's needed, and that's what they're doing. I'm
I
just
see what
curious,
you're
like that,
saying.
like
Yeah.
literally, I'm curious, right? Like,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
they so tapped into their spiritual form that they're forgetting that they're human? Like that's kind of where I
Mm.
question. But
Yeah,
anyhow, I
so
agree with you.
I feel that they are in part, in their mission. That is,
Yeah,
something they chose to do before they incarnate into this life to demonstrate that it is possible to gain nutrients through the sun without
right.
the need of food and water or any liquids. And so sometimes, they may, I don't know, sometimes people may be aware or not aware of their mission, but they
Right,
feel
of
called
course.
to do something
Yeah.
and they have a deep passion for it. And so they are in their, mission when people are feeling called to that passion to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I don't know whether, they may be aware of it. Sometimes they're not,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
awareness.
yeah.
But I feel like in a way, like the Akashic records is all about learning
Yeah.
different experiences, right? And that's one of them. It's like, let me come back to this life. In this lifetime, I'm just going to breathe air. And I'm also going to tell myself I'm not going to remember, this kind of
Yeah.
stuff that this is the
Exactly.
soul having a conversation with like, God, let's say the source, right? Making this,
Yeah.
this is part of the agreement and this is going to help the collective in like X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and
It's like they have to come to the table with their proposition. This is my proposal.
yes.
But it's actually really funny. Like I always say this is like we are in the Academy Awards of soul experiences right now. Like I really feel like we were on the other side going, "Oh my God, pick me. I just want to go in." Like this is going to be like because we're busting open all of these paradigms and it's actually
Yes.
coming to light and we're seeing through all the distortion and the veil's gotten so thin that we're like healing past lives in real time right now that we know aren't really past lives. They're all dimensional lives that are happening at once. But
Mm-hmm.
like we're in this mode of like, we haven't seen it like this unless you are in like some of the stuff you've been connected to over your lifetimes, but unless you're in ancient societies or you grew up in a very cultured mystic school that nobody else in the world knows about and you're in like these secret dimensions over here doing this kind of work, the normal society, like the rest of us on the population, 99 probably percent of us have no idea that that was a thing. Like in the 80s, we think about it. We didn't know that this was a thing, right? Or we didn't
Mm-hmm.
know manifesting, even though Wallace Wattles wrote a book in the 1920s, nobody knew
Mm-hmm.
about the book, like little bit of
Oh,
people knew about
yeah.
the information of this, right? So it's kind of interesting to like to feel out where we are in this earth span and how much we have access to our starseed systems, to our Akashic records, to our soul's vibration, to our telepathic communication, to our light
Yeah.
language. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's really cool to be a part of this experience at this time around. And I hope I remember,
Mm-hmm.
but I know I won't, but like coming back into the next life, but maybe I will, who knows? And
But
I'll be
you
like,
can
remember that
program
cool chick,
yourself.
Colleen? Remember that cool chick, Colleen, that you used to be? Like, let's pull her in. She was fucking fun,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, I think that's part of the programming, right, that we do in this lifetime. Also, if that is the calling and a desire that you feel you're going to come the next lifetime, then you can start the preparation now in this lifetime
yeah.
and continue it. Some people though feel that they're not coming back to this
Yeah.
earth, and
Depending on
everybody's
how it ends with my timeline here, I don't feel I'll be back for a while. Like I only
Mhm,
incarnate very rarely actually
mhm,
into human form. And some of the things that I've been discovering and finding out um, about us being ascended masters in actual physical form right now, like I
yeah.
literally found Mary Magdalene
Mhm,
incarnated in this life,
mhm.
and we're all here. So we're
Yes.
all here, and it's been fun discovering. And now I'm really clear about part of what my mission is finding the ascended masters and helping activate them, because some of them
Mhm.
are living under the guise of Earth right now. And I'm like, yo, dude, we need to fucking wake the fuck up. What the hell have you been doing? Come on. Like, you
Yes,
get in
yes,
the boat, like we gotta go. And
exactly.
if we're all aligned the way I feel like we will be, a lot of us aren't dropping back in for a while because we're going to do the
Mm-hmm.
work that's necessary. And we can. Most of us still have 50 years, 60 years, 70 years on this earth plane. That's a lot of years to transition some stuff. So I feel like
Oh,
it's
it
just,
is.
yeah. Yeah.
But I believe it's possible at a quantum acceleration to change those things. And I made a determination to say that I don't want to come back.
Yeah.
That's why I've been doing a lot of like clearing and patterns and going really deep. And it was very hard at first, confronting all of that. I wouldn't say it was easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's exactly what I desire for so many as well. If people feel, if they resonate with it, of course, if they feel that desired as well. But getting ready for like the new avatars of this earth, and so, but yeah, so I feel like, there's so much for us, like as humans, right? That so many different aspects of us, even in the universe right now, that are working in parallel,
Oh my God.
because our soul is just one portion of it that's in this human body experience right now on the surface.
Yeah.
But there's another like aspect of me somewhere in the solar system, like in another planet, or
There's a lot of you all over. Like, it's
yeah,
like,
for all of us, it's like the same.
yeah.
Like, and I feel like, like maybe you could talk about this in the Akashic records. If
Mhm.
everybody simultaneously, all these different aspects are learning, are they all being recorded in the same Akashic record or different?
Mhm. So we have multiple Akashic records. So we have the master Akashic records, and
Mm-hmm.
we need permission to access all of them. So, like, not everyone can just go into the records and be like, yo, I'm in the records, because some people creating some distortion could fuck some shit up in timeline. So
Okay.
they're they're locked, and for those of us that do the work, we can access them. Our own are ours, like they're inside of our Sacred Heart Temple, our
Mm-hmm.
Akashic, just like the work you do through there. We're accessing our own Akashic records, and we always have access to that. So we can
Mm-hmm.
access our own at any points in time. But if I'm like, I want to go into Monica's, I have to seek soul permission and
Yeah.
permission from the human, if they're alive, to go into their records. If I desire to go into Syrian Akashic records or the Light Warriors Akashic records, I have to seek permission inside of the space to be able to go in. And sometimes you may not be able to, because you're not privy to that information, and it's not necessary for you to know it in this mission here on Earth at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But every single one of us has our own. We have the collectives, we have soul group ones, we have starseed ones, we have the distortion ones, like the Illuminati ones, like we've got all of those too.
Interesting. Yeah.
Every single aspect of this. So when I do work in the records, I have to get permission and written permission from every single person I access. And even I have clients that are 9 years old right now that I'm working with, who are and he's a part of the Brotherhood of Light. His mom was like, I give you permission. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I also need his, like, and he needs to say yes,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
he's 9. Like, we don't play well, he's not 18 and I have, no, that's not how it works in soul experiences. He actually is way more grounded and knows more than you. So
Or
she
he's
said to him the
ancient.
other day, she says to him the other day, she's like, well, Kai, like, we're just learning this. And I go, no, actually, and I'm on the call, and I'm like, no, actually, he actually knows. You're just learning this, but he's not. And it's baffling the human brain because, well, I birthed you, I should know more as a mother, when he's tapped right in. There's no filter. He has access. He gets and understands the whole entire thing. So it's just really interesting. Like, I actually had to bind the whole Catholic Church as a whole in someone's records the other day. And because they were creating distortion, and they had implanted it like years in linear time, years
Interesting.
ago. And I like part of the Light Warrior mission is this. It's returning to truth, right? And it's bringing that truth back into the world. So I'm like, who would have thought, that I would drop into the records and be binding the Catholic Church? And now I go, now I understand why I've got, so many people in my corner, why I literally have what I call the collective. And it's not my membership that I have as an offering, it's the collective working with me. I have 11 dragons plus the one my higher self rides on in me, and plus star seeds and like one
Mm-hmm.
dragon holds like Hathor and the Star Nation, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
another dragon holds Merlin, all the wizard realm and all the students of alchemy, plus Hermes Trismegistus and Thoth and the Emerald Tablets and
Mm-hmm.
Ascended Master Saint Germain on one freaking dragon, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with a collective. I call them the 11 plus myself. There's 12 of
Mm-hmm.
us. And whenever I have to drop in, I just go, okay, collective. And literally I see myself on my dragon with my higher self and
Mm-hmm.
we're all flying together. And it's really been
Yes.
interesting. And I know you can see it because especially you and
Yeah,
your
I
type
do.
dragons. Yeah.
I see it. Yes, and I have seen myself as my higher self on different dragons. And
Yeah.
so, but
I
I also
bet.
see like everybody else, so people who may not be consciously aware, who are consciously aware, who are flying their dragons as well.
Yeah.
And I do see that there is like this whole light warrior type thing that is happening on the planet right now because there's been like different battles that happen in the astral plane as well. Because
Huge.
there's
Yeah.
been this whole thing with the shadow and light, as you know, more light is increasing on the planet, and the shadow is saying, hey, like it's putting up a fight,
Yeah. And they're bending the rules, you know, before like even like I always get reference like 5 years ago. I feel like things started shifting in our energies 5 years ago, and then it's just escalated. And 3 years ago, of course, with the whole mechanism of what went down on the Earth experience and all of that kind of escalated us through. But the rules were, if I say to you, you need to leave, you have to leave. Like that's what the rules were in the universal alignment. They're not
Yeah.
following the rules anymore. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever they want to do. They're stepping in, like
Mm-hmm.
literally in one of the clearings I channeled through to teach this weekend in the Akashic Records course was ray connections and other rays. And that's how a lot of demonic energies are attaching into people. And when I cleared a ray off of someone, I normally wouldn't have to protect the household or the other people in the homes. They jumped into someone else's field in the house. And I went, these bastards, like they're getting smarter, right? And they're
Yeah,
like,
they are.
they're just getting more cunning. And because
Yes.
we're exposing that and we're coming into our full bloom of ownership of our wholeness, that it's no longer our duality triggering us anymore. We've learned to bring it into wholeness through our own selves and what the work we're doing. And that's diminishing all of this aspect of what they used to be able to control. Because if they could
Oh
keep
yeah.
us in our shadow, then they have us. But now we're going, we're whole. We're incorporating it all. We're owning our rebellion and our bitch archetype
Oh
if we
yeah.
want to be, and all the things, right? And we're owning it and being here. And they're not liking it. So
Oh
they've changed the
yes.
game. Right.
They
So yeah.
have. I've noticed
Yeah.
that they're getting smarter about it. I caught one of them, right? They were trying to sneak in because
Yeah.
like usually at
Yeah.
night I listen to like subliminal messages, like all these different things, through my headset.
Yeah.
And one of them tried to sneak in and try to say you will succumb to the darkness. I was like, oh. And then I started laughing.
Of course. And be like, you bastard. There was the other night I could feel one outside my window and I went collective and I just went like this and I went and they just poof, took them right
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So
But
the
it's
minute that I
awareness.
started
Yeah. But
when I laughed
you're
though, that
aware.
transmuted it, but like it wasn't.
Oh, I'm sure because it brought in the joy, which we know is a like
Yes.
it's what a vibrational state of like 600 on the consciousness scale. But yeah.
Right. But it was just
Mm.
funny though, because it was like, oh, these guys are getting really smart and sneaky, like.
That's I've literally been speaking to two words right now that the collective needs to understand: discernment and awareness. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can play in those two energies, like, because we don't want to scare anyone right now, because some people are maybe like, oh my God, I didn't even know. And over here, we're like, they're coming in to
Yeah.
subliminally message us, and I'm clearing energies,
No.
they're bouncing, and all these things, right? So, like, we don't want to scare anybody. But
Right. Thank you for
if
saying
you
that.
yeah, if you're in awareness, that's the thing. If you are present in your life, that is one of the keys of our whole entire spiritual evolution advancement is being present. How can you be more in your body to pay attention to what's going on? And if you're in that space of that, then you're 5 steps ahead and you'll feel it drop into your
Mm-hmm.
field where it's like, something doesn't feel right. Or why did my whole business model just stop right now when I'm just about to da 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 da? And it's like, dude, there's distortion, and they're coming in. They're trying to block the light warriors from executing. They're trying to block our funds from moving through. Because if we have prosperity, we're moving prosperity into the world, and we're changing more lights and more energy. So they're blocking prosperity. They're creating struggle, chaos in our lives, and they're diminishing our light when it comes to our light bodies, like watching our energies, right? So it's like, it's just about paying attention and being in discernment. Who are you hanging out with? What are you listening to? What are you tapped into? You know, who's talking in your ear? All of that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so important, you know, as you're stepping up as a light warrior, right? For all of us who are listening. And really just pulling out all your light weapons. And it could be laughter, could be one of your light weapons.
Absolutely. Yeah, all of it. Yes. I've been in my mind practicing with my ninja swords. So I always say to everybody, it's like, because you know, there is, Costa Rica is very well known. For those that don't know, I live in Costa Rica, which most of you guys probably like, we don't even know who you are. Like, never mind that you live there. Okay, yeah, I live in Costa Rica. And crime, like theft, is really big here. And they actually break into houses to be able to get stuff. And like, look, I don't live in North America. We don't have double pane windows. We don't have tempered glass. Like we don't, like, it is easy to get into our, like, literally they could lift my patio door off the thing and come into my house. Like that's what they could do if they wanted.
Oh no.
Now, well, I live in a very secured area and all this kind of stuff. But in the space of, like, I joke around, it's like, I've been tapped into the life that I was a ninja. And in my mind, I've been practicing with my ninja sword. So if anything ever were to happen, I just go, boom, drop back into that life. Like, let's freaking go. Right. Yeah. So like, I'm not worried about it because I understand that I have the tools and resources inside of me to move through all of it. And that's what I really want everyone to really feel, is like, it's all here. We are remembering right now, remembering, and nothing is outside of us. It's all inside of us. And sometimes we hire mentors to help us accelerate it. Like Monica, and my experience with her is with my light language, I would never be speaking it unless I dropped into your field to submit into the space of, and going, she has this key. And now I'm running with it. I'm creating albums with it. I use it every day. Like I can translate it in my mind when I'm speaking it out loud. Like it's actually really kind of fun to see how I've evolved, but I'm remembering using light language in my field. Like, so it's just so interesting to see it all coming together and feel it all coming together that way. So
yeah, and I've experienced your modality in your work as well. Like I still remember that meditation was Isis that you did. That was just so amazing. So in the solar plexus, I remember seeing a very specific flower, you know, for me. And I felt that, you know, you've come a long way, you know, as far as like now listening to your, you know, light language in your album, which I'm so excited about, the music. It brings a lot of joy, you know, in my heart when I hear it. And it's very transformative. And so, I just want to share. Would you be open to doing like a collective, like Akashic record reading of the Light Warriors? I was kind of feeling that, like.
Would you want me to do it in light language, or do you want me to speak it in English? How would you want me to do that? And then everyone can take. So you tell me what you feel. And then, because if I do it in light language, everyone will take whatever they need from it. If I do it in English, then it's just an English translation. So I'm okay with whatever.
Well, I was feeling like if there's a message for all of us.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, you're us light warriors.
Yeah.
Star seeds.
Yeah. I'm just going to close my eyes for a second. So if people are watching the video, obviously, if you're listening to this on your ear, you have no idea that I closed my eyes. You know, like, just stating that out loud.
No worries.
Dear one, we come here today in peace and unity to accelerate light into your field. We understand that the dynamics on Earth right now are coming up to be healed, yet you are potentially in a dynamic in your life that you're moving through. We urge you to trust in the energy that's moving through your collective energetics now, meaning your own space and time in your own mind and in your own heart. Trust the messages dropping in. Trust that we are here to guide, and trust that we have your back. You are not alone and never have been alone in this execution of time. And although sometimes we feel like we are lone rangers, and sometimes we feel that we are in this palette moving through alone, you are not. Open up your heart more, dear one, to be able to connect deeper into the collective. find and be available to people that will understand who you are, because one light together equals two lights together, but exponentially changes the vibration of the earth. And when two tend to come together, they manifest more to come together. And right now, our job is to be the beacon. How can you step into your light more? How can you step in and trust more in the process and dismantle all the things that you think you know that no longer are relevant in your life? The truth is radiating through the earth experience now. You just need to believe in the truth in you and the truth in all of us. And through that truth, it will radiate deeply into the world. And from there, change will happen. Every step we make at this moment of time is important. Every single time that we radiate more light into the world, it's changing things. And through that change is the experience that we all look forward to: joy, peace, connection, pleasure, desire, deep-rooted love in all ways, in all forms. It is here for us now. We just need to choose to align in it. Thank you.
Wow, I love that. That was so powerful. Now, do
Sometimes
you
I can't
remember
talk as
what you
fast.
said?
No.
Do you remember what you said, or it just comes
No.
like, yeah, I was
It just
curious because
comes.
a lot of channelers, some remember, some don't, specifically,
Yeah. It's really funny. So I had one person message me the other day, and she said, okay, I just went through this program and that was me. And I was like, what was you? like I don't even know what you're even talking about. I have to go back and watch the replay to figure
Yeah.
out what she means, because I don't even know, because I literally
Yes.
channel that way of just pure
Yes.
delivery in all the
Yes.
ways that I do the work.
Yes. Yeah. And for the listeners, I highly encourage you to go back and re-listen to that, because that was a very powerful message, and just feel that through your heart. Because it's a message for all of us right now, and help us remember, reconnect with ourselves, and just trust the process and what's going on right now, even though things have been a bit scary, a bit chaotic, all over the place, but
Yeah.
change is going to be inevitable, just so I myself have gone through so many changes, especially in this year. And it's like,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it's just a whole readjustment, like I've changed locations completely, and having lived in an area my whole life since childhood, it's been quite a transformation, but also liberating. So, bringing it back to the whole thing was Braveheart, it's freedom. Yes.
It really is. We're at this time now where we are in liberation. So whatever that means for you, how do you bring more liberation into your life? Whether that's you walking the beach for half an hour a day, or you speaking your truth, or you stepping into a space, or you doing your side hustle, whatever. Each of us has an imprint inside of what liberation means for us. How can you lean in more to feeling liberated? Because from that is all the freedom. So yeah.
And what does liberation mean to you?
Oh, that I can just I live a very liberated life, and I really do, because I choose to be liberated. And even in the times where I'm creating landing pages and up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing work, even though that doesn't happen very often because I choose an infrastructure that I don't want to do that kind of stuff any longer.
Yeah.
But still, every once in a while I do. Like tonight, I still have to do some tactile stuff and get some things done and whatever. But it's every day I wake up and I say to God, universal alignment, all energy source, like whomever we want to call it in, I'm like, where do you need me to be today? What do I need to do? Like, what does the collective need to hear through me? How am I stepping in? Does someone need a call today? Am I messaging? Like, what has to happen? And then it drops in and I take action. And that for me is liberation, because every single day I play in the pulse of spirit, alignment, and intuitive flow. And it leads me down pathways like Guatemala, which I never thought I'd go down, or Costa Rica, which I never would have imagined, or the album that I never, like, I would never have
Right.
considered myself an artist, like, ever. You asked me, like, even like 6 months ago, even though I did drop in about that time where this was
Yeah.
happening, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, like, and now I get it, because you heard like Into the Wild, the song, the track that I have mastered. I actually have a few more mastered
Yes.
already, but like, you understand why now. You're like, yeah, I get you. And I'm like, and I didn't get me until I heard that, even though I created it. Like,
Yeah.
I have a music producer who's
Yeah.
beautiful at putting it all together, but every
Yeah.
single part of that song came from me, from the
Yeah.
background vocals to the drumming to every
Beautiful.
single part of the whole album. There's nothing except for, I do have some tiger roaring in the shadow track and some thunder, which is not me. But other than that,
Are you
everything else,
sure?
yeah, I know. Yeah, that was my past life tiger, actually. I guarantee you it probably was.
Yes.
But like, yeah, so like, that for me is liberation. Like, how
Mm,
can I own all the parts of me? Like, how can I
yeah.
own all of me and be here and not worry about what other people are going to think? Because some people are going to think that I'm crazy, and I am, and some people are
I
going to
like
judge
that.
me, and they will, and no matter what I do. And my mom even was like, my new branding, I just come out of a waterfall and I'm wearing a white dress so you can see my nipples in my photos. And she calls me and she's like, what's up with the nipples? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, your nipples are all over Facebook. And I was like, Mom, I'm owning my feminine divine goddess. Like,
Yes.
there's power.
Your
And people tell
temple.
me, yeah, people tell me all the time, they're like, Colleen, your photos transform me. Like, I want,
Mm-hmm.
like, they are, and you've mentioned this on Facebook too, but I'm like, Mom, this is a non-negotiable. I will not take my nipples offline because you are triggered by my nipples. I'm sorry, get over it or unfriend me. Like, that's the options,
Yes.
because this is happening. And that's liberation for me, that I am
Yeah.
liberated in that light.
So being able to express yourself however you want to express yourself, because that's really what an artist is, being able
Yeah.
to be liberated and expressing your own soul and what's
Yes.
coming up in that moment. And I feel like, people get triggered because there's a lot of the old paradigm still within us of the old
Sure.
matrix, like there's a
Yeah.
cultural, there's a religious side belief, all of this still like within the subconscious area.
Yeah.
And so those are the areas, right, when we feel triggered by something that we see a picture or
Yeah.
words from someone else, what is it that is triggering you inside and is activating you in that moment? Because
Right.
that is also a liberation for someone. And I
Yeah.
absolutely love your pictures, because they have been so empowering,
Yeah.
especially for the females out there, entrepreneurs, but I'm sure for men as well.
And I
And so
haven't gotten anyone trying to pick me up from them. Okay. So I just want to make sure I
yes,
say that out loud. Like, I don't get the
that's
cheesy
perfect.
DMs, because I have a gate around the energy, and were
Yes.
formed not in a come into my inbox and
Yes.
proposition me energy.
Yes.
They were formed in a way of a whole other energy that maybe they're seeing them and doing whatever, but like, they are not
Mm-hmm.
coming into the field to
And
approach me.
I got that sense from your pictures. I wasn't picking up that vibe. And so
Yeah.
I feel like it was also empowering, like the divine feminine. It didn't matter if it's men or women,
Yeah.
but I felt like that divine feminine archetype empowerment through those images.
Mm.
And I'm sure that's what, you were going for, which you were being guided, to express yourself in that way. But that's what I was feeling from them. And so, like, with your album that you're about to release Into the Wild, it feels very liberating in that way.
Yeah. And that's, well, you asked about, like, I am liberation, and I
Hmm.
choose liberation every day. And it doesn't mean I don't go through struggles and I'm not a human in this experience doing my own thing. I am also
Right.
that.
You
But
you get through it.
yeah, but I feel like, how can I liberate myself from this? And yeah, I'm
Mhm.
not bypassing the lessons. I'm going right into them, but I'm not stopping. I'm not, taking a look at the sidelines. I'm not like half in I'm like, we're going through this. Okay, we're going in. Like, I got to get out of this as quickly as possible. What do I need to learn? How do I implement this? How do I integrate it? And I'm moving
Mhm.
through, because I get it and I understand it. I committed to doing photos every single month, for a while at least, because that photographer understands, like, she finds me, like, she
Mhm.
found me in the jungle, like, she captured me.
Mm.
But also too, I know that 2024 is going to be a really massive year for my growth, and I desire to take photos every month to see it. I want to see how I transition from one month to the next and what that feels like and looks like and everything.
Yeah.
So It's cool. I have a photo shoot tomorrow, actually. So it's going to be really fun to see what comes up
Ooh.
next.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I totally agree. I know. So,
So for someone who's listening, right, and there's like first time hearing about like light warrior, but they feel like it really resonates for them, and how do they tap in or start tapping into their own light warrior? What would you advise?
yeah, so the first couple things I would suggest is like what is your truth? And sometimes we don't know what that is, but you may know one of your truths. You may know one. Like my truth is that I am, a mother that appreciates her kids like this, and that might be your truth, and that's the only one you know. Then what I would do next is go on a discovery and get curious about what else is my truth? What else makes sense for me? And I would start to really look at how you show up in life and what are the things you're starting to say to yourself in the space of, because in the truth is your light. And when you find the truth, you start to beam that into the world when you fully accept and embody it. And then you start to step in what we call the light warrior energy. And each person,
Mm,
just like Monica says, has their own tools that they play with. The tools could be of empowering your kids. The tools could be your laughter. The tools could be your joy. You may not have weapons like I do. And I'm really being inclined to like do some tactile training in this physical form because I know I've done
ooh,
it in the past. I
yeah,
can
yeah.
actually train tactilely. And I actually it's dropping in a lot of visions for me. And I'm like,
I
this
don't
is
know what tactile is. What is
like
that?
guns and like rolling around
Oh,
on the ground and shooting targets and like strength training through a lot of like military almost strength
really
training.
interesting.
Not joining the military, but like
Yeah,
training in that fashion of like pushing the body to an extreme. I don't know. There's something about it. And maybe it will open up vessels in me. I don't know. Or maybe it's just for fun. Like I don't know what it's for yet, but it's
yeah.
showing up and I'm starting to see tactile training schools and I'm starting like they're not here.
Mm,
I'd have to go somewhere. And I'm thinking maybe like I hire someone for like 2 weeks and that I'm in it for 2 weeks. Like I'm 8 hours a day, whatever that is, in the space of learning, rolling on the ground, carrying heavy things. I don't know. And like I don't know the answer yet, but it's really showing up in my space. And
mm-hmm,
a lot of my tools are tactile tools, let's say, but they're
mm-hmm.
also light language and transmissions and my clarity of thought and my ability to see
Yeah,
through energies and all the things that I arm myself with. But not everyone needs those. Your tool as a light warrior could
yeah,
be to just keep shining brightly that joy into the world. And that is exactly perfect because that's what your puzzle piece is, right? And
yeah,
just because I decided to take on a whole bunch of other things doesn't mean that you needed to, like you're like, I got my joy, I'm good. Like you can have all the other freaking buckets over there. Like you could take on all
yeah.
of it, and it's like it would be finding that, like, what is that truth for you? And then really leaning in to start to move it into your world. Like, how do you show up now in that truth and start to play there? So,
I
yeah.
love that. Thank you for that advice,
Yeah.
And this has been so much fun, like all this information, the Light Warriors, the Akashic Records, the movie references, you know.
Veganism, like, I
Oh,
know.
the vegetarian, the way we eat,
Yeah, I know.
what we drink, and how does that
Yeah.
affect our spirituality, and does it or does it not?
It's
But
all relevant. Yeah.
it is all about perception too, so
Mm.
it's really like how I feel like we can transmute a lot of it, but if you need to, like if you had desire for something like it's out of your body norm, right, that would make you sick, you could transmute it, you can overpower that, because I believe in the mind over matter, or actually I know that mind over matter, so I do it a lot for certain things that
Yeah.
don't resonate with my body.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so what would be like, as we're coming to a conclusion, because this has been fun, we could probably talk for like another hour.
We could talk for days, actually. Like, let's
Pretty
just be
much,
real
yes.
with everybody. Like, there's so much content. Like, that's not a problem.
Yes.
Like,
And I'm
yeah.
sure this will be the first of many, because I'm gonna, ask you to come back for something else. Like I'm feeling that. I'm just saying it out loud.
Some kind of crazy adventure I've been on. Be like, okay, Colleen, we need to
Yes.
talk this through because, like, and I'll be
Yes.
like, I'm owning it. It's all good. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what
So
would be your final thoughts then for the listeners?
yeah, you asked me if I had anything that I'd like to kind of serve your audience with, and I really feel a lot of the energy, yeah, we're working with awareness and discernment, but we're also working in this trusting and surrendering into the space. And I really feel that the less resistance we have in ourselves to take on our missions, to accept this play that we're playing within, the easier it gets with us. So I want to impart, on people is that energy of surrendering and about really deeply rooting into your soul knows, and you're going to be taken care of in whatever mechanism that is. And if you're driving towards being, a millionaire driving a Bentley, but your soul's like, look, like you'll be taken care of in a beach house driving a bug instead, but you'll be living in such a beautiful light and love and peace in your life. It's kind of like our priorities shift when we're driving towards what is actually our soul's alignment. And we only can do that through surrendering. And because we don't know, our human mind does not know. And it's our soul that needs to start to lead. And when we start to lead there and deepen that leading, we get into the really, really amazing vibrational alignment, which brings in all these cool things, I call it. So I want to offer it up in your show notes, to put the link to a free masterclass I taught on surrendering. And there's an activation in it that helps people deepen that connection within themselves. And I just encourage people to take it and run. Like, what does that mean for you? And to just literally lead into life more deepening that way, because it's a powerful place to be, for sure.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for that freebie and sharing that, with all of us. And, just since we're on this, flow of the conclusion stuff, what are some other ways for people to get in touch with you? And I know that I'm going to put, I think, some information there in the show notes as well, but if you want to say a little more.
Well, a couple, like my playground is Instagram. It has been for a long time. And that's where I love it. And I jam out on Instagram. So my link will be in the show notes, but I also have a podcast. Monica was on it back when one of my first few episodes, when it was launching. I literally tomorrow, episode 66, kind of fun, is coming out tomorrow. Can you believe that? 66.
I love those two numbers. Yeah.
I know. It's so great. I'm like, oh, this is so fun, because we're talking about shadow stuff too. 66, bring it on. And it's called the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. So I talk about all things unleashed and truth in the world and all different dimensions of truth, from like all different things that you don't talk about in normal perspectives, and the stuff you get like shadow banned for online come through my podcast. And I love to be able to step into that space and speak to it. So yeah, the link will be in the show notes too, if you feel called to come and listen. And I'm open to it all. Like if something shifted in you and you took something from this, like I always say to everyone, send me a DM, let us know, tag us on Instagram, share it out, because there's people that need to hear some of the stuff that we just spoke into, and we can't reach them all without you, so yeah.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yes. And I really love your podcast. It's very much like on fire. It feels like a light warrior, like speaking to all of us and connecting with our own light warriors. So it's a very activating podcast. I encourage others to go listen, and we'll have all that information, in the show notes for ways to contact Colleen. But I want to thank you, Colleen, so much for being here and being my first guest, for one.
Yes, I love being first. I actually, one of my journals right there, it says, I go first, Monica.
Awesome.
Love it.
But this was a very fun conversation. And like Colleen said, if you took away from the show, the episode, this conversation that we just had, let us know, send us a message, share with others, and because so many people just need to hear a lot of all of this.
Huge. Your podcast is amazing. So I'm just so grateful to be here. And thank you again, Monica, for holding the space.
Oh, well, thank you. And just one second here.